What is going on, Misfits? Welcome back to another edition of Logician Tim Learns with me, your host, Logician Tim. That's right, this is the show where you get to watch me go from a total gaming newbie to a more informed gaming newbie. How about that? What is going on, you guys? Glad to see you. Yeah, we're back working on this Savage Worlds. Savage Worlds Adventure Edition. I know there's like the Savage Worlds has been out for a while. The Savage Worlds Adventure Edition was just delivered out to everybody, and so this is kind of like the hot thing right now. And I just always get like rave reviews about this book and or this system. So I was like, I got to check this out and see what makes it so awesome. This one's a little bit different from the other ones that I've done before. Like I said, usually you get an RPG. It's like the world book, and the mechanics kind of all in one. This one's very different. This is a system that you kind of learn and then apply to kind of any type of setting that you want, from sci-fi to, fantasy another time, or if you want to play in the Wild West, you can do that all with Savage Worlds. And so the mechanics are really diverse and very flexible. And so that's what I'm kind of learning as I'm going through all of this. Last time we talked about combat. We learned how to, make attacks and, how to apply damage, what wounds do, and a little bit about healing. Now tonight we are going to be covering powers. And so let's break open the powers chapter of the book. Way on back here. Let's see here. So here we go. Yeah. So Savage Worlds settings, so you can buy like settings books with them. The settings usually all feature some type of magic in some form or another. Now, whether it's voodoo or wizardry, crazy gadgets or psionics or some other, crazy magic type abilities, Savage Worlds uses the term powers to kind of cover them all as a blanket statement. And the power system is designed, like most things in the game, to be universal to whatever type of world that your campaign takes place in. So you'll see a lot of these things have kind of generalized terms that you would then focus into, more specific terms that you might use in your setting, okay? Now, first I want to talk about arcane background. So you're going to start, when you start messing around with magic, it's kind of part of character creation, even though it wasn't part of character creation. When you start creating your character, you're going to start by choosing an arcane background, which is found, it's typically found in the setting book or the campaign that you are playing. In this book, they cover 5 different arcane background types, and they are gifted, magic, miracles, psionics, and weird science, okay? Now, each type of power has an arcane skill associated with it in the description. And you buy these arcane skills just like you would any other type of skill. And so the descriptions they kind of give us here, the arcane background that you choose will kind of determine like your the arcane skill that you're going to use with it, of course, the number of starting powers that your character starts off with, and also your power points, and they are all listed here in these descriptions. So if you get the arcane background magic, for example, the arcane skill is called spellcasting, and it is a smarts attribute. Your starting powers will be 3, so that means you'll get to choose 3 powers, or like spells, if you'll want to call it that. 3 different spells to choose from. Power points is 10, and this is kind of like your mana pool. If you think like Magic the Gathering or something like that, or other RPGs or MMOs even, power points are kind of like your mana pool. And so if you choose the arcane background magic, then you would get 10 power points to start off with. Now, some of these are different from one another. The arcane background gifted starts off with 1 starting power, so you only get to choose one thing, but you start off with 15 power points. So each one of these is slightly different, just depends on the setting that you're going to be in as well. Now, let's see, I think that's enough about the arcane backgrounds. Basically, you're just going to pick these based on the setting that you're playing for the most part. They say that it is possible to pick more than one of these, and it would just kind of be, a conversation between you and the GM and the type of setting that you're running, right? So if you're doing like psionics and what's this other one? Like miracles. You could do some kind of weird psionics and miracles setting, and you could actually choose 2 of these arcane backgrounds. So that would be just kind of between you and your GM. All right, looks like my chat is doing weird things on my Restream chat. Let me restart it real quick, just in case people want to chat with me. Come on, start up for me. But I do want to tell you guys a little bit about trappings. Look, it's making me log in. Let's do that real quick, guys, so I can see. I love it when these things happen right in the middle of my stream. So awesome, you guys. All right. It's finally logged in. All right. So that way, if people want to talk on YouTube, then I can actually see it over here. If they want to talk on Facebook, I can see it over here in one little chat area. It's great when it works, just like all technology. Not so much when it doesn't. All right, so I do want to talk about trappings. Now, my understanding about what trappings are, and correct me if I'm wrong here, guys, but trappings are like different ways that powers can kind of manifest or appear in different settings. So this allows the same kind of mechanical power to be used in all types of different settings, from magic to sci-fi or tinkering or whatever. It's going to use the same mechanical device, right? So the example they use in the book is that maybe a character has a swarm of bees that they kind of shoot out to attack their enemies, while another character might, in a different setting, might use, shoot lasers out of their eyes. And both of these examples are the same bolt power, the name bolt. And they have the same exact mechanics, but they look and they're described very differently, and those would be your trappings. So trappings of this bolt power, this casting a damage spell, basically, it can look like a swarm of bees, it can look like laser shooting out of your eyes, it can be whatever you want, and you just adapt it to your setting, and this is called your trappings. And they give us some examples of trappings for each kind of power in the book, and of course you can make it look or sound or be whatever you want to, as long as the mechanics kind of match up with that. Now, once you do determine this kind of description of your trapping power or whatever, they don't change. All right, so let's just say if you're using the bolt power and you're saying, okay, this is a spear of ice that just launches out of my hand and hits the target, okay? Well, then it's going to be that from now on. You can't just kind of suddenly change it to a lava spear because you need fire damage all of a sudden against this different enemy, right? There is a way to change the power modifiers, which is kind of a cool thing, and I'll be going over that in a few minutes. But just know that your trappings and the description of those trappings stay the same once you kind of define what those are. So you can add more. So if you had an ice spear and you wanted to add a lava spear, you can do that when you advance, kind of when you level up. But that would be it. You can't just like change it up willy-nilly. Now, sometimes a power can have like additional effects, and the example the book uses, they say like if you zap somebody with a lightning bolt while they're standing in water, well, maybe this should do extra damage. Or conversely, let's say you zap them with a lightning bolt and they are wearing like a rubber hazmat suit. Well, maybe they should take less damage. Now, the GM, what's cool about this is the GM can actually decide if there's this synergy taking place and either increase the effect of damage by +2 or decrease it by -2, right? And again, this gives the GM the freedom to kind of change things depending on the setting and the situation. So I kind of like that. I kind of like the idea of the synergy. Now, sometimes a power's trapping can limit that power, giving, here's the quote they say, giving it focus at the expense of versatility. And so they said this kind of reduces the strain it causes to the caster. And what this means is you're going to kind of purposefully set a limitation to this power that you have, and it's going to be a permanent one, okay? So they are permanent, and they always affect this power unless they're changed later on with an advancement when you level up, okay? So you can impose these limitations on one of your powers, with your GM approval, of course. A couple examples they give is like the range. Like you could reduce the range of one of your spells or powers to like self only. This only affects me, or I have to actually be touching that person for it to work. Okay. Another one of them is aspect. Like you could limit it to only using one aspect of the power. If there's more than one choice, like if let's say a power gives you an option to either boost somebody's strength or lower their strength. Well, you might want to self-impose a permanent self-impose and say that this only boosts people's strength or this only lowers strength. Well, why would I do that? Why would I want to limit one of my powers, right? Well, you do so because every time you limit a power, it reduces the PowerPoint cost of that by 1 when it's activated for each limit that you put on it. So if I put 2 limits on it, then it would reduce it by 2. Of course, it can't go to 0 with just this base modifier. You can with like edges and some other things, but you can't reduce it to 0 in this method. But you can reduce it down to 1, just kind of putting these special limits on it and gaining, taking off those PowerPoint costs, kind of like your mana cost for that spell every time that you cast it. So yeah, this way you can kind of modify your powers kind of any way that you want, but just remember that these are permanent and they can only change when you get an advancement or choose and also choose to use that advancement to change that trapping at that point. Now, activation. So in order to use your power, you first pick a target that and it has to be in range of your power, of course. And so you're going to pick this target that's in range of your power, and then you're going to make an arcane skill roll. And this is just like every other skill check that you do in this game. So you're going to need to roll over a 4 for it to succeed. And this is kind of like just saying like, can I activate this power? All right. So this is not to see if you hit. It doesn't sound like it. So if you roll, if you fail this arcane roll, then it does not activate, but you still spend 1 power point. Okay, it's going to cost you 1 power point just kind of to attempt it. Now, if you succeed, if you roll a 4 or higher, then the power activates at the cost of the power points that it's listed, kind of like your mana cost, no matter if it hits the target or if it's defended or it resisted or whatever, you still pay that full price for it. The bad thing is if you get a critical failure on your arcane skill roll, you get what's called a backlash. And this will cause 1 level of fatigue, and it will cause all of your currently active powers to just kind of stop. Like you can't focus anymore. You have this backlash. It interrupts whatever spells that you were kind of keeping going. And so, yeah, like I said, from what I'm kind of concluding from this activation kind of rolling to see if you can activate, it sounds to me that you roll first to see if you successfully activate the power, and then you roll to see if you hit your target, kind of like with a normal ranged attack. And if that's right, guys, somebody let me know in the comments if you're a Savage Worlds expert. Let me know if that sounds right to you. That's what it sounds like in the book. If that's wrong, let me know too. Clear it up for people. All right, so maintaining power. So some of your powers will need to, you need to kind of maintain for a while. Maybe you want to use this disguise power, but it only has a duration of 10 minutes. And you're going to need it longer than that. So what you do is you cast it on yourself first. Once it's successful, there you go. It's going to last 10 minutes. Now you can spend 1 power point more to maintain it for an additional 10 minutes without recasting it, without trying to go through that activation arcane skill roll. All right, so just 1 more power point and you can maintain it again. So and they also tell us that you can stop maintaining a power, any power that you want, as a free action at any time that you want. So if all of a sudden I want to get out of my disguise, I can do that in the middle of somebody else's turn or no matter what's happening, and it has no action cost to me. So there you go. Pretty cool stuff. I kind of like that you can kind of maintain those powers and keep them going. I'm not sure how that would work like on some of these where you can like charm beast and things like that. It sounds like you could just kind of keep them charmed forever as long as you had mana, your power points. You could keep them charmed for quite a while. So I don't know. Seems like, I guess that does have a cost. That's kind of going down over time. I guess that makes sense. So yeah, I guess the more I think about it, the more I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. All right, so speaking of kind of recharging your power points, how does that work? Well, you actually recover 5 power points per hour that you rest, okay? And they say in this book that it's up to the GM to decide like what resting means, right? But as long as you're not kind of doing anything really vigorous or that takes a lot of focus or concentration, it's generally accepted as resting. They say like even if you're just walking leisurely down a road from like one place to another, that can also be considered resting as well, and it will allow you to recover those power points just kind of as you're traveling from one place to another. Even like on horseback, they said as long as it's not too bumpy or nothing crazy going on, you're still considered resting. So kind of cool stuff. One of the cool things they had in here is called shorting your powers. And so this is where you can decide to cast a power with fewer PowerPoints than it requires for whatever reason. Maybe you're running low on PowerPoints, or maybe you're totally out of PowerPoints, and or maybe you just want to save some for later. You can still attempt to cast a power. And now for every PowerPoint that you want to short, then you will take a -1 penalty to the Arcane skill roll. All right. So if you want to cast this, 3-point healing power, but I don't want to spend any PowerPoints, then I can do it, but it's going to come at a -3 penalty to that Arcane skill roll. Now, here's the thing. Shorting is risky. All right. If you fail, then it is considered a critical failure. So just a regular failure is considered a critical failure. And this means that you're going to gain 1 level of fatigue, and all of your currently activated powers, again, will stop as well. So use it at your own risk. But if you're totally out and you're desperate, then, you can at least attempt it at a penalty there. So that's kind of cool. Now, earlier I mentioned that you are able to modify your powers on the go. And these are called power modifiers. They have their own kind of little section here. And these things, the power modifiers, allow you to change up your powers basically every time that you cast them if you want. And if you want to use power modifiers, kind of what you do here is you select one of them. There's a number of them in the book. And then you pay the associated PowerPoint cost for it. So you already paid for your spell, or you're going to pay for your spell. And then you're going to pay for this power modifier along with it. And you get whatever effect it is if the power is successful. So you can add, for example, armor piercing to this 1 bolt. Let's just say I don't want it to be like that all the time. I'm just going to add it to this 1 bolt. Well, armor piercing, I look it up, it costs anywhere from 1 to 3 power points, just kind of depending on how much armor piercing I want, because I think it's I get 2 armor piercing for every 1 power point that I put into it. So that means I could have up to 6 armor piercing for the cost of 3 additional power points. So that's kind of one of these cool modifiers that you could have, or you could double the power's range for just 1 extra PowerPoint, or you can even triple the range for 2 PowerPoints. So that's something you could pick. One of the things that was in here, the modifiers that I thought was cool, was called selective. It was kind of neat. And this is where maybe you want to cast an AE spell, but you want to select only a certain, only certain people in the room are going to get hit by this. Or not hit by it, right? Well, you can choose the selective power modifier and have only the enemies get hit by this fireball type spell, or only friends get hit by this buff that I'm casting. So whatever I want, I can just choose that by selecting selective and then paying 1 power point for that. So kind of cool. I think that's kind of neat stuff. I like the idea that you can kind of modify your powers, and by adding the PowerPoint cost, just kind of at your will. And they have some pretty cool stuff in here. Hinder and hurry, lingering damage, fatigue. They have all types of stuff in here to choose from. I think it's kind of cool. I like it. I like these power modifiers. So if you want to dump in some cool stuff in there, then you can. So we've kind of gone over the powers, but we haven't really talked about devices. Now, if you end up taking the artificer, is it artificer or artificer? Artifice? How do you say that? Artificer edge? Then you can make devices for yourself and for other people to use. And they have the same types of effects that powers have, except you can give them to other people for their use, or you can use them yourself too. So, of course, making things like this kind of takes some preparation. And also, kind of the drawback is they could be stolen or lost or destroyed. So, yeah, you want to kind of keep up with what you're doing here. Now, to create a device, and again, these are devices that you can create that will have the same effect as the powers in the book. How cool is that? So maybe you're some type of, tinkerer or wild scientist, or I think it's weird scientist. I think it's what it's called in here. Then you can actually make some really cool devices, even if you're in a magicless world. I think that's really cool. So yeah, to create a device, it's going to take 1 hour per power that will be activated through it. Now, the players kind of list what powers it's going to be what powers are going to be in the device, and then they're going to allocate their power points to it. And you're kind of investing into this piece, because your power points kind of stay in there because they're lost to the person that created it until they're either used or they're recovered through tinkering, which basically they don't recharge like normal. So if I'm putting 3 power points into this device, then my power points pool is reduced by 3 until I get that back. It's kind of how it seems to me. So what else do I want to tell you about this? Oh, so the creator can actually choose to, it's called tinkering. The creator can actually choose to reassign up to 5 power points per action. So per action that you're taking from a device to their own personal power pool. They tell us that you have to be in physical contact with the item to do this, and I'm assuming the device won't work since you're kind of pulling those power points out of it. So it's kind of like you're almost stashing up power points over here and then going back and get them later. But again, it sounds like you don't recover those power points. So I guess that would work in a pinch. Let's say if I made this kind of bomb type thing, but I don't need to do that right now. I need power points for something else. Then I could kind of grab those power points out of this and use it for something else. Let me know if I'm kind of describing that right. That's what it sounded like to me. So yeah, I like the way that you can kind of change up these. You can make these really cool devices and then give them to other people as well. I think it's pretty cool. Now, powers. So this is kind of the list of powers, and there are a ton of powers in the book. And of course, you can come up with your own as with the GM as well. They have things like Arcane Protection, Banish, Beast Friend, which is like charming an animal. And it has some cool modifiers with it too, where the caster can communicate and sense through any of the beasts he's befriended. This is kind of a mind reader modifier for that. Sounds pretty neat. They have Bolt, of course, that I talked about earlier, Burst, Dark Sight, Confusion, Disguise, Dispel, Divination. This goes on for quite a while. They have a bunch of them in here. Growth or Strength, Illusion, Healing, of course, Puppet, Mind Reading, Resurrection, Sloth or Speed, Slumber. All these really cool ones. Stun, Succor. Lots of neat powers that are listed in the book. And again, you can make up whichever ones you want with your with the help of your GM as well. Now, when you pick one of these, it's going to tell you what rank that you need to be as far as your kind of like your level that you need to be able to pick up this power. It tells you the power points that it takes to cast it. This like teleport needs to be rank seasoned. Power points it costs 2. It tells you the range. This one range is equal to your smarts attribute. Some of them just have a regular range, like 5 meters or something like that. Duration on this one is instant. Some of them have like 5 minutes or 30 minutes, just depending on what it is. And then it tells you like trappings. Which one of these that would be good to go over? I guess we do this teleport one. So the trappings would be a cloud of smoke, phasing out, or change into a bolt of lightning. So if you're talking about some other type of non-magic, let's say you're like doing psionics or some kind of high energy but non-magic, you could say, well, they're phasing out, or they're in sci-fi. They were phased out. They were teleported, phased out. So it kind of gives you some ideas of how to use these in other settings, which I think is cool. It's cool. And they also have additional like modifiers to most of these as well. So pretty neat stuff. Now at the back of the chapter, again, there is a summary of all the powers listed along with kind of a short description of each one. And I really like these types of summaries when I see them in a book. I mean, it just makes accessing a lot of information really easy, and I just think it's a great addition. I don't have to flip through. You saw there's like 10-15 pages of powers, and I don't have to flip through each one looking for them. I can just glance at them here and tell what rank you need, how many power points it costs, what the range is, the duration, and the summary of it right there. So really cool stuff. I like it when they do these summaries. I don't see that very often. I'm just so glad they put it in the book. I really like it. Okay, that's about it for me tonight. Next time, I'm going to be going over the Game Master chapter. It's called Game Mastering chapter. And hopefully they can give us some cool tips and tricks on running a game of Savage Worlds. So I'm kind of interested in that. Let's see. Do me a favor, like the stream, hit that subscribe button down there. It doesn't cost anything. It's totally free. Leave me a comment. I love seeing comments, and I try to reply to all of them if I can. Share the stream. Many of you have been sharing the stream on your social media, on forums, on Reddit, on Discords, and all over the place, and I really appreciate it. I love seeing the new faces around here. Thank you so much. And hey, if you like this type of content, please consider just supporting me with a donation on my Patreon page. The link is down there in the description, and every little bit helps. So even if it's just like $1 or $2, hey, it helps out a lot. Trust me, it adds up. All right, thank you all for watching. I will see you all next time. Bye.